The sound of a baby crying cut through the calm of the airplane cabin like a sharp blade. Passengers exchanged looks, some annoyed, some concerned, and others pretending not to notice. But no one could ignore it. The baby's loud, desperate cries filled the plane, echoing with confusion and discomfort. Near the window in first class, a well-dressed man in his early 30s struggled helplessly. Sweat gathered on his forehead. His tie was loose, his expensive watch shining under the cabin lights. But the weight in his arms, his crying baby, felt heavier than all the wealth he owned. He was a millionaire, but in that moment, he looked completely lost. His name was Ethan Carter, a young tech millionaire known for solving impossible problems in boardrooms, never in the tight aisles of an airplane. His baby boy Oliver had been crying nonstop for almost an hour since takeoff. Flight attendants tried everything: warm milk, a pacifier, little toys. Nothing helped. This was Ethan's first trip alone with his son since he lost his wife, Grace, 6 months earlier in a tragic accident. Every cry reminded him of her absence. Grace had been the calm in his storm, the one who understood their son's needs before he even cried. Now Ethan felt like he was failing at the one job that mattered most: fatherhood. A woman across the aisle shook her head and whispered that rich people didn't know how to parent. Ethan heard it. It hurt, not because she was rude, but because he feared she might be right. He looked at Oliver, his tiny face red from crying, his hands reaching out for comfort that Ethan didn't know how to give. "I'm sorry, buddy," Ethan whispered shakily. "Daddy's trying." A few rows behind them sat a young woman who had been watching the scene quietly. Her name was Clara Evans, a single mother returning home after visiting her sister. She wore a faded denim jacket and carried a simple, worn-out bag. Her own baby girl, Lily, slept peacefully against her chest. Clara saw everything: the father's panic, the baby's distress, the helplessness in Ethan's eyes. She recognized it because she had lived it. She knew what it felt like to be overwhelmed and alone with a crying child. For minutes she hesitated. Should she help? Would it be strange? Would he misunderstand her? But as the baby's cries grew louder, Clara felt her heart pull her from her seat. Quietly, she walked up the aisle and leaned toward Ethan. "Excuse me," she said softly. Ethan looked up, embarrassed, expecting a complaint. But before he could speak, Clara continued gently, "I think I can help." "Help?" Ethan repeated, confused. Clara nodded and whispered something that made nearby passengers freeze in surprise. "I have breast milk. My daughter is about the same age. If you're comfortable with it, I can feed him." For a moment, the entire cabin fell silent. Ethan stared at her, stunned. It was such a personal, unexpected offer, something people rarely offer or accept. But there was nothing inappropriate about her expression. It was pure kindness, pure humanity. He looked at Oliver, now crying weakly, exhausted. Then he looked back at Clara, his eyes filled with tears. "Please," he whispered. "Please help him." Clara sat beside him and gently took the baby into her arms. Within seconds, Oliver's cries faded into quiet whimpers, then into calm breathing. The entire atmosphere of the plane changed. The once tense cabin softened into peace. Ethan watched with overwhelming relief and gratitude. Many passengers who were annoyed moments earlier now looked on with softened eyes. Touched by the scene, after Oliver fell asleep, Clara handed him back with a warm smile. "Thank you," Ethan said in a trembling voice. "You don't know what this means to me." "You don't have to thank me," Clara said softly. "I know how hard it is to be alone with a baby who needs comfort. We all need help sometimes." When the plane landed, passengers gathered their things. Ethan turned to Clara. "Can I repay you?" he asked. "Anything you need?" Clara smiled and shook her head. "Just be patient with him. And with yourself. That's all he needs." And with that, she walked away with Lily in her arms, disappearing into the crowd. Ethan watched her go, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and admiration. He wanted to thank her more, to offer something meaningful. But he knew deep inside her act of kindness wasn't something money could repay. It was a moment of pure grace. Weeks passed, but Ethan couldn't stop thinking about that day. Her words echoed in his mind every time Oliver cried, or whenever guilt and loneliness crept in at night. Be patient with him and with yourself. He began to change. He read parenting books. He took time off work. He spent evenings sitting with his son, talking, bonding, learning. Slowly, he became a better father. Slowly, he healed. One morning, while feeding Oliver, Ethan opened his laptop. A new charity request appeared in his inbox, an organization helping single mothers with childcare and jobs. The name stopped his breath. Lily's Light Foundation. Clara S. Without a second thought, Ethan donated a large amount anonymously. And with it, he added one simple note: for the kindness that changed my life at 30,000 feet. If this story touched your heart, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps us bring more real, emotional stories to the world. Before you leave, tell us in the comments, what's the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you? Sometimes, one small act of kindness is enough to change a life forever.